Good morning, afternoon, and evening to everyone. Colleen, I did mute all, so you will also be muted.
Okay,
You
might
want
be
to
good.
unmute and say hello?
Hello, everyone. Glad to be here. Well, next
Hello,
week I won't
good
be able to
evening.
be here. I'll be flying to Egypt, but when I'm there, I will definitely do some things from there. I think we're pretty late at night at this time. It's only 9 hours ahead though, so we'll see. I don't know about internet and things like that. So, but I will definitely take videos and bring them back because it's a very spiritual journey and down the Nile, and really excited about it. We are on the Nile for 10 days and on a private sailing ship. There's 10 crew members to take care of 14 people. So I am super excited. It's like, wow, I'm going to have all the meals served and everything. And then we get to go do ceremony in the different temples all the way through Egypt.
Yeah, going to be a pretty amazing trip. We're really excited for you, Colleen, but she will not be here for the next couple of weeks, probably. I think they said in Lebanon it's 7:39 p.m. So maybe a few times you might be able to join us. If she's able, she will be joining us. Because as you said, Sean, with Sedona, sometimes when you're in that energy and able to participate in the share and maybe even guided invocation, it's really, really powerful. So if I know she's said if she's able, she'll do that, but you just never know with the internet and all of that kind of thing.
Well, even the one that I think I shared videos from Japan up on Mount Karama. So I'll definitely be doing those things.
Yeah.
Sometimes it might be a little delayed just because it's, having the time to do it all and internet and everything, but I will definitely be sharing it with all of you.
Yeah. Yeah. Going to be one of those amazing trips. Actually, we did a podcast with Karen Hefner, who will be guiding the trip along with others. And so you can go find her episode either on YouTube or the Reiki Lifestyle podcast. And uh, they talk about what the trip will entail in Egypt. And it's definitely one of those bucket list items for sure. So, and also Colleen, usually you take work trips. So really excited for you as well to be able to have this trip as, vacation, but it's a spiritually led trip. So it's kind of that kind of vacation too.
Super excited about it.
Yeah. All right. Well, welcome everyone. And just excited to be here this morning. Few announcements. Colleen has a Reiki master class this weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, which is the 15th, 16th, and 17th. She still does have just a couple of spots open if anybody is interested in taking that. You do have to be Reiki 1 and 2 for 6 months to take the Reiki master class, but if you are feeling called to it, should definitely. And if you're watching this on YouTube on Thursday, then definitely send her an email, Colleen@ReikiLifestyle.com, if you're feeling called to take that class, and Danny can help get you set up. It would be okay to register that last minute. That's okay. And then we'll be teaching animal Reiki in October. Colleen, Sue, and myself. Reiki, Animal Reiki Master and Animal Reiki 1 and 2. You can go to Reiki Lifestyle to see the dates for that, and to register. It will be our last Animal Reiki Master class for 2023. We will be teaching it again in January 2024, but if you've been called to take that, certainly look at that and sign up if you're feeling called. It's amazing. And then Colleen will be teaching Karuna in October, Karuna Reiki in October as well. Holy Fire 3 Karuna Reiki Master. And that she only teaches that a couple times a year. So if you're feeling called to Karuna Reiki, check that out also. All right. I think that's the oh no, Colleen, announce your Hawaii class as
One
well.
more, I have a 7-day Karuna Reiki Master class in Hana, Hawaii with William Rand. Caroline, I see you smiling. She's going to be there. And several others from our group will be there too. It's just a really wonderful trip. And we were doing it quite a bit, almost every year prior to the pandemic. So first time back. And Hana, Hawaii is on the island of Maui. And I will tell you from the people in Hana that we have talked to, they are really inviting us to be there on all different levels, but also bringing the Reiki energy there in a group the way that we do. So anyway, and then just real quickly, we will be bringing out more information about our next step classes and our Explore the 12 Heavens classes that start January 2024. But that's a big, long subject. So I'll just say it and we'll talk about it more later.
Yes, those are our year-long kind of, Reiki, our year-long Reiki courses that we teach monthly, and they are advanced techniques. So let's say you've taken a Reiki course and you're kind of wanting more. As Colleen said, it's too much to go into here. And we also want to have some more information up before we talk about it a lot. It's just an awareness that is coming up. And we really go into additional Reiki techniques in those courses, Reiki journey techniques, things like kind of what we're going to be talking about today, exploring things like ancestral history, exploring things like past lives, through kind of Reiki journey techniques. So there's a lot to learn in those classes if you're wanting more training after your Reiki classes, like your Reiki 1 and 2 Reiki master classes. So again, we'll be talking about those more in depth coming up soon. All right. Go ahead, Colleen.
Well, let's go ahead. Do you want to start with an invocation or do you want to start with the topic, past lives?
Yeah. Well, so the last couple of weeks, we were talking about ancestral history, and then we talked about, I guess, future history, descendant history as well last week, and what that all means. And so we thought that we would talk today about past lives and, what's the difference between that and ancestral history. And what past lives can be, what they are. You might already know a lot about past lives. You might have done about past life regression, but it's always interesting to dive into it from different perspectives. And then also the journey that we'll be doing. Again, it's always channeled, but just maybe exploring that a little bit and see what comes back. For you through the Reiki energy and visiting it through that perspective. So as I said, we've been talking about ancestral history, and past lives can be a little bit different than ancestral history. Also, you can have past lives that are a part of your ancestral history. And also you may not have past lives that are a part of your ancestral history because they can be a little bit different. There's a lot of different, I would say, there can be different belief systems about what past lives are. It's not like this is the right way to think about them or anything like that. It's just one perspective of it. Many of you might have heard of like the term past life regression, where you are visiting past lives, you're healing past lives, things of that nature. And then you might have a spiritual or religious belief system in the way that past lives work, and incarnation, reincarnation, things like that, and how that all works for you, or maybe lack of past lives that is a part of your belief system. All of that is wonderful. Again, Colleen and I are always about many right ways rather than one right way. So this is just to, add to kind of your repertoire of knowledge and explore what your inner truth is around it, explore what your experience and your belief system is around how this all works anyway. So because that can be different for each one of us. As Colleen frequently says, 7 billion people, although it's more now, 7 billion people, 7 billion realities. Also, sometimes it's nice also to hear different perspectives, because it may bring you to your own perspective to a very, an even deeper level. So it's also for you to explore. So when we're talking about past lives, what we are talking about is the idea of the soul's history. So as we know, energy on this planet is all the same energy, right? That we are the same energy as when the earth was created, and our bodies are made of star stuff, and this energy just continues to recycle, would be kind of the word that would come to me around it. However, we do have this idea of our own soul's experience. And so the soul can have remembering as far as past lives are concerned, where you will see people born into this life with certain remembering. I think I've used this example a few times recently, where there's that video that went around of this viral video that went around of this little boy who was, most little kids will just bash on the computer, and this little boy couldn't have been, more than 18 months, maybe 2 years old, and was very obviously playing chords. He had his fingers apart and playing chords. It wasn't like this composed thing, but it was a lot different than a kid that just goes and bashes on the computer, on the keyboards, like most kids do. And just watching that, it's like you could tell it was such a remembering. Joe, I'm sure you see that in some of your students. Joe is a master piano player and teacher, and that's kind of an even different level than a piano teacher. Is a master piano teacher, and there's kids that come through that are you think of like progenies and things like that. There's kids that come through that just have this remembering. Go ahead, Colleen, I see you on mic.
Oh, no, that's okay.
Okay. Yeah.
You said prodigy, and I was ready to say prodigy.
I said, yeah, prodigy. Thank you. I said progeny, didn't I? Yeah. Thank you. Prodigy.
Oh.
So, you have people that come in that have remembering. My grandmother visited a castle in Portugal, and knew passageways that weren't, known passageways. And it was a remembering. And you have a lot of, Colleen, you're knitting and crocheting. So
I actually have, and maybe because of this work, I don't know if I had it so much before, or I wasn't aware of my past life memory. And I wouldn't say so much like I know exactly the name of who I was in that way, but I have a lot of, I guess I would call it cellular memory. And so I often think about it that way. But what Robyn was talking about is that, I was just kind of born knowing how to knit and embroider and needle arts and
crochet.
And I just did crochet, I've just started crochet, but it's like I always used to say, I was like the least likely kid to be a crocheter, so, or knitter or fiber artist or embroidery. I mean, I've always been a really active outdoor person and on the horses and in the dirt and, things like that growing up in San Diego and the ocean. And so anyway, it was definitely a past life memory. And then when I moved from San Diego to Oregon, that was another one when, like, growing up on the beach in San Diego, you would think is like California for those of you that are here internationally. And I mean, I grew up like a mile from the beach, maybe less than a mile from the beach, and grew up with horses on the beach in a small town at the time and really paradise. But I always knew I wasn't home. And I always had a vision of what home looked like. And that started by 5 years old. I always had an imagery of it. I would have pictures of it on my wall or in my mind. And then when we came to Oregon, it was like, here it is. This is it. Well, then later, to make a long story short, later when I went to Ireland and England, and my maiden name's Carney, so Colleen Patricia Carney, and so very, very Irish heritage, Celtic heritage. And I mean, I got to Ireland and I went, oh, this explains everything. Like, it's the image I had my whole life and didn't know where it was. And Oregon looks as close to Ireland as you can living here. So when I got here, it was like I went to Ireland and went, oh, this explains it all. So very many past life. And I also do think of it also in the level of epigenetics and cellular memory, that we have cellular memory of these things as well, that Reiki actually brings forward. And that was even so much of that in my younger years, of course, was before Reiki, and it was still there. I still had that memory.
Yeah, well, and in Colleen's experience, ancestral history and past lives can intertwine. They can be, as she said, she has very many memories that her past lives are similar to her ancestral history.
Yeah, that's the other fascinating thing.
Yeah, and then sometimes they don't. So, many people are familiar with the term star seeds as it's becoming more well known, that people have past lives from different star systems. Like, you might have heard of like the Pleiadians, and they have memory of different past lives from different systems. And this may be the first or the first few lives that are here on the planet in human form. And so their body has a ancestral memory within the genetics, but their soul might have the past lives that are not so familiar within humanity as a structure. So you can have both things happen, and many star seeds or people that might be from different realms, as we've talked about on here before, people who come from the angelic realms, for example, this idea of this human body, this idea of being within humanity can be a little bit confusing isn't the right word, but there's this, under this, coming to this idea that is where they've come from, can be really, really helpful, because they're like, this human body, this humanity, sometimes you just don't quite resonate or don't quite get it. So that's the idea, that people can also come here to the planet from, different places. And then when we're talking about past lives from like the human perspective, many of us have these memories when we're in this work, where we discover past lives that have been, like, for me, for example, I don't necessarily identify with it all in the same way that Colleen does, but through this work, I have found that in a lot of past lives, I have been a soldier, and how that can answer so many questions for me in this lifetime can be really helpful. How it can show up in this work, for example, is that there can be these unexplained things that happen for you. So many times it can be gifts, as Colleen has said. I see, as Kara said, she knows how to sail and has never had a lesson. So you can have these gifts from past lives that you have memory that you can bring into here. There also can be healing, for example, that would need to take place. One of the ones that I've seen in a session is that somebody had a hard time with their voice, with the power of their voice, like kind of throat chakra ideas, voice, not necessarily like the physical sound of their voice, although it can be that too. But this kind of unexplained fear of speaking up that didn't necessarily resonate with things that have happened in their life. Well, it turns out in a past life, they were a monk that took a vow of silence. So there's these ideas that can cause blocks and limiting beliefs, different things that can be unexplained as to how there's fears from, like, I don't know why I have this fear. And when you kind of go into this idea of past lives, either past life regression or just, having that attention through Reiki of healing something, there can be an impression and what it actually was, and other times there isn't. And past life regressions, and sometimes and also can be in Akashic records readings. You can go into the details of the past lives. That's a specific training and skill set that you can do. But also in just doing Reiki energy, and diving deeper into intuition and kind of those psychic impressions that can come with Reiki energy, and studying Reiki and doing Reiki and being Reiki, you can also have these perceptions of things that have happened in past lives that relate to your life today. And a lot of times in past life work, we research, for lack of a better word, we observe the things that need healing here in this life today, which is important. Like I said, we have limiting beliefs, we have blocks, we have all of these things. Or, for example, for those of you that are potentially star seeds or come from the angelic realms, or maybe we're an animal in a past life, or maybe we're an entirely different lineage than who you have been in a past life. So let's say, I was born into this family of my descendants, mostly European descendants. And in past lives, I have been an entirely different culture for a long period of time, and then born into this lineage. And it's like, wait, I don't understand this. I don't necessarily, get it, or even kind of like there's this like, what's the word I'm looking for, where it doesn't quite go together. I can't know. Word recall is a little strained this morning. Do you know what I'm talking about? Where it's not like quite going together. Okay. Well, anyways, there's this.
That works.
Yeah, it's not quite. There's a mesh.
Thank you. A disconnect.
Disconnect. Thank you. Yes,
Yeah.
disconnect. Yeah, there's kind of this disconnect with it. So there's that piece of it. And so then that can be really helpful to kind of know in this body here today why there is this disconnect, and on top of all of the other different healing things that can show up. But one of the things about Reiki energy specifically is that Reiki energy not only heals, but it also empowers. So it can also reveal your gifts from past lives and how they relate today. If you're a star seed that's here in this body and humanity, what are your gifts and talents here? Yes, there's that integration that may need to happen. That can be a little confusing at times, but also you have gifts and talents from, where you came from. Or as Colleen has shared with her knitting, like she's like, I don't know, what was this, about a month ago? And she's like, you know what, I'm just going to crochet this project that I really want to work on, and never crocheted before, and went to the yarn store and got a bunch of yarn and was able to like crochet these intricate designs, where the rest of us are having to like, crochet the lines first and then maybe crochet a scarf first. And, she just knows how to do it. And so there's those pieces of it too, that it can also reveal your gifts and talents. What the example that I used as the monk, where there was the vow of silence, but also this person was a scribe. And so this person was one of the people like working on, it wasn't the Book of Kells specifically, but it was that kind of work. And that was part of the reason that they took the vow of silence, was to do that kind of work. And it turned out that translated into this lifetime as well. They were very drawn to writing and calligraphy, and had taken, even calligraphy courses in college. And it was like a hobby of theirs, and it was a gift and talent that they kind of came into this lifetime knowing, and were very drawn to. So there were both aspects of this past life that they came into this lifetime knowing. And so you do have both ideas when it comes to your past lives. And again, sometimes it really meshes up with your actual genetic lineage, and then other times it doesn't. And it can be part of the reason why that exploration of past lives can be very helpful here in this lifetime, and can answer a lot of questions here in this lifetime of why I am drawn to some of the things, why I do some of the things, why there's this kind of memory of some of the things, why I need healing in some aspects, and how it can release you from that, to live kind of in your full empowerment and remembering and authentic self here in this lifetime. So so that's kind of the basics around past lives. And part of the reason that we do that work as part of, our Reiki practice, as part of what we do for ourselves, for our own healing, for our own revealing, and that understanding. Because, sometimes we can come to the planet, and Colleen has talked about this, the planet of the great forgetting, and we have forgotten, some of those aspects. As a lot of times as children, we do remember it, and we can have these stories of children that have talked about where they came from before they came here. As I said, there's those gifts and talents that they can come into this lifetime. I've had Luna in that state where she's just fully channeling, where she has come from before this, and how do I help her stay in that remembering for as long as possible. And so there's that piece of it as well. And that we with culturally created self, schooling, familial, all of these things that can kind of create these layers that have created a forgetting of that idea of our soul, and where we have come from, and why we're here in this particular incarnation, in this particular body, and in this lifetime. And exploring that many times can be super helpful. So Colleen, I don't know if you want to
Yeah, I think what I would add to it is one of the things I've noticed with Reiki energy and the way that my own work has evolved with Reiki energy and as a practitioner is that for a long time I would be working with past lives and asking what needed to be healed in past lives that were affecting this life. And there were just like these just terrible past lives that we've had, and some pretty grave injuries and traumas and showing up. And so I was in one of my sessions with that kind of a past life, and I asked Reiki, asked the spirits, like, why do we have just these terrible past lives, and how are they affecting us today? And they said, well, that's because that's what you're asking to see. And if you were to ask to see the lifetimes of mastery, of contentment, of skill, the different lifetimes that we've had, those will equally show up. And so I started asking that because both things are needed. It's not to discount the need to heal some of these lifetimes, but it's also in revealing in that epigenetics within you, revealing within that cellular memory, many of those gifts and talents and abilities that we have innately that we bring with us from our soul's history, from our experiences of other lifetimes. For those who are star seeds coming in from, the lifetimes between the lifetimes, because we also have those that we come in and we've directly incarnated in with those lifetimes as well, and coming from some of those experiences. And I've seen what some of you have written in here in the chat about that feeling of earth feels very dense and heavy, and like, whoa, this body. You can even see it in babies sometimes, when they're born, the babies that come in that are like, whoa, yay, I'm here. And other babies are like, whoa, I'm here. So you can see some of that happening. But anyway, that is one of the big evolutions in my Reiki work, is to equally ask for the lifetimes of gifts, of skills, of talents, of knowing the wisdom that you come in with, and some of those very distinctive things that are relevant in this life today, that have meaning for you today. So just when you're doing your Reiki work, and if you're working in past life, areas, to remember that part of it. And we talked about that with the ancestors and the descendants as well, to really ask for those revealed lifetimes of that extraordinary human spirit that you have too, and your soul's knowledge that you have as well. Yeah. Oh, Taylor, that's interesting. She said she's yet to do a soul reading for someone with no galactic connections. It's pretty amazing how multidimensional and vast we are. Well, it's one of the things that I know I'll find in Egypt is, the belief and the understanding, and this was a lot of the work that I did in the Lakota trainings as well, is the awareness that we come from the stars. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And, it's a lot of the reason why we see commonly in Reiki, why we, first of all, are called to it. But then for many of us, why we have a hard time talking about it or being public with it. You'll hear the term in these, modalities, witch wound, reading some of the, other pieces. Sometimes there's cords and connectors to other people in past lives. Sometimes we experience multiple lifetimes with people, or or animals. You just hear it kind of so consistently with different people's experiences. And then also being practitioners, you'll see the connection quite a bit with it all. And for many people, it can explain so much in their life. And, for somebody, the person that put in the chat that it can be a hard thing to rectify for people, especially for those that um are maybe more science minded, even with Reiki, because we know that Reiki at its core is a stress reduction technique. And for many people that's all it has to be. The good thing is that the Reiki energy with all of this is always doing the work, and you may not have even an interest in exploring these things, and just want to simply, do Reiki energy, or that is only where your belief system lies. Or, for you, I know it was in the context of your clients, where their belief system lies. For me, if I have in certain settings, I'm not going to explore these concepts. If I'm in a medical setting, I'm only doing straight Reiki. If I'm in a setting like even in the Reiki share where we'll go into breakout rooms, I'm not exploring these concepts for people and with people, because frankly, it's not what people are here for. It's not what people in a medical setting are there for. Maybe somebody that I don't know, I wouldn't explore that unless they know that that is a part of my practice as a practitioner. That's what they're there for Reiki session that explores those types of ideas. So you don't necessarily have to do it. You may not have an interest in it, and that's okay, because Reiki is still healing on a cellular level. It's still bringing you to your wholeness in however you define that. For many of us, we're interested in these subjects. We're interested in these things, but also I know and trust that Reiki is going to take care of any of it in the way that the person needs. And it doesn't make it less than, or if we're exploring past lives, it doesn't make it greater than. It is bringing somebody to their wholeness and to their wellness in the best way that fits for them. So yeah, there's a lot of this that can be inexplicable. Sometimes you can Google the science behind some of these things. There's entire cultures and religions that the basis of their belief system is reincarnation. And so, there is exploration into these things, that there is, studies around, and you can Google it from those perspectives, and look at it from those perspectives. If you would like to choose to try to explain it to people that may have a wholly different belief system or non-belief system around it. And so that is definitely a way that you can look into it and decide or choose to whether you want to explore that path with your clients or not. And all of that is okay. The good thing about Reiki is that, again, Reiki requires no spiritual belief system. It's not a religion. This is a way that Colleen and I practice, and things that we've seen in our clients and students, and just conversations with people, and the work that we do for ourselves. But Reiki, that is not a requirement of Reiki. We just also use the Reiki energy to do this work because we like to use the Reiki energy to do this work. It can be a part of the Reiki energy, but it doesn't have to be. And definitely support all of those ways of looking at it. And again, many right ways. This is just one way.